Greetings everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I will be discussing how I got involved in one of the most important, if not the most important practice in my entire life. And of course, I'm talking about meditation. Looking back on my timeline, I began somewhere around 2017 or 2018. Unfortunately, the details are a little bit cloudy, as I was violently addicted to drugs, alcohol, and pornography at the time. And so the details are a little bit cloudy about when exactly I started. But I do remember that I was going through one of the most harrowing moments of my entire life. It had been some time since I had done anything productive. I had spent all my time basically watching porn, smoking weed, or going out drinking and partying, where I would, more often than not, take some other extraneous substances in order for the night to continue. I got to one day in my life when I was like, enough's enough. I haven't done anything with my mind in such a long period of time. I hadn't studied, never read any more textbooks, never really did anything where I needed to utilize my brain. And so I decided to start off with something that I thought was a little bit easier. Let me start off by reading a novel, I said to myself. And so I got out my Wilbur Smith monsoon novel and proceeded to start reading the first page. It wasn't long before I realized that I was no longer reading the book. I was in fact on Pornhub watching pornography, but I'd caught myself this time and I was wondering, how on earth did I arrive here? It was like something had taken over and put me in front of my computer, and before I knew it, I was surfing the internet for something which could provide me with more dopamine. And so I promptly picked myself up, went back to my book, and before I knew it, once again, I was on either YouTube, watching pornography, but like a dopamine fiend, I was seeking for something that was far more entertaining than the book, that I was reading. And this made me very anxious, very sad, as this was the first time that I'd ever really noticed, first time I'd ever taken note that I wasn't in full control of my faculties. It was like something else was running the show behind the scenes. My attention span was almost non-existent. As a result, as you can imagine, this scared me greatly. So much so that I really thought that I'd completely broken my brain and that there was absolutely no way for me to come back from this. Through all my years of abuse, I thought to myself, when you finally want to fix yourself, you'll be able to do it. And you'll be able to do it in a flash. However, this isn't strictly true, because after abusing your brain for such a long period of time, there are obviously going to be some consequences to your actions. And so there I was. I recall the day just like it was yesterday. I literally picked up the phone, I called my mother, and I was crying on the phone. I'm not even going to lie. I was weeping that I had broken my brain, that I was never going to be able to concentrate again. And my mother consoled me. Of course, she didn't really understand what was happening with me, but she told me that it wasn't permanent, that it wasn't going to be a long-term issue. However, I did have my doubts, and I recall just feeling really, really down that day. A depression that I'd honestly never felt up until that point. And so what did I do? Just like any good millennial, I took to Google to search for solutions to this issue and typed into the search bar, how to increase your attention span. And it came up with a few different results. The first of which was meditation. And so I decided from that day onwards that I was going to do this thing called meditation. That very day, I sat down for 10 minutes and I timed myself. I set a timer for 10 minutes and I attempted to sit there with my eyes closed, concentrating on my breath, feeling the flow of air go in and feeling the flow of air go out. And it wasn't long before I realized that this was one hell of a challenge for a brain that had become so used to constant stimulation from the drugs, from the alcohol, from the pornography, from the series, from the videos that I'd been watching, from the horrible fast food that I'd been eating. I noticed that it was goddamn near impossible for me to sit down for 10 minutes and just be with myself, at least without freaking out. I sat there, literally set the timer for 10 minutes, and before I knew it, my brain was telling me, hey, you didn't set the timer. I'd literally open my eyes, check. It had only been literally 2 or 3 minutes since the timer had been set. It's rather ridiculous, but if you sit down and try meditating as someone who's never tried or who's never attempted to meditate before, you will notice that this is a very common occurrence, that you will think your brain will literally trick you out of meditating, out of spending time with yourself. It will literally tell you, hey, your timer wasn't set correctly. It's already been 10 minutes when it hasn't even been 2. Just try it out for yourself and you'll see. Going through one of my most harrowing moments in my entire life is what finally brought me to practice that would forever change my existence, change the way I think, change the way that I move throughout the world. And the reason that meditation does this is essentially by depriving yourself of all of the stimulation of this modern existence. Sit down, bring yourself back to baseline, and realize that there's way more going on inside than you could have ever possibly imagined. You're going to sit down and all of these movies are going to start playing through your mind. Things that happened in the past, things that you're thinking will happen in the future. And it's very hard to actually stay present with the breath. You're going to be concentrating on your breath. All of a sudden, movie from the past plays. I remember that time that my mom did this bad thing to me. Or in the future, I wonder what so-and-so is up to right now. I wonder what it's going to be like tonight to meet up with Michael. And it'll go on and on and on, and you're going to have to bring yourself back to center. The first time that I realized that meditation was having a tremendous effect on me was when I finally got to the point of meditating consistently every day for about a month. I was going into the pantry to grab some pasta to cook, and I accidentally grabbed the pasta from the wrong end, pulled it out, and spilt all of the pasta on the floor. Now, for someone like me, especially at the time, I had an incredibly short temper. The me that I knew would have screamed at the top of his lungs and been angry and mad for way longer than any normal human being should be. However, I literally looked at all the spilled pasta on the floor that day and chuckled to myself. And it was at that moment that I stopped and I was like, wow, who is this? Who am I? Laughing at pasta spilling on the floor. This isn't something that I would normally do. I would literally be fuming at this point. And that was the first time I started to see what meditation can truly do for you. Because what does meditation do? It allows you to see that you are not your thoughts. You are not your initial reaction. It gives you a little bit of distance from those thoughts so that you can respond appropriately instead of getting involved in those emotions that come with the thoughts. Instead of being moved by them, you are the one that can finally see them clearly and stop being moved in such a way.